Thank you so much for listening in. Now, across Kenya, NGOs are tightening belts. Now, you've heard about donor funding, and we've also heard about donor funding shrinking. Programs are scaling back, and communities are feeling the pinch. Which communities are feeling the pinch? We're going to find out. In April 2026, Nairobi will host the Global NGO Stakeholders Summit that will bring together governments, NGOs, donors, innovators, and communities from Kenya, Africa, and beyond. So it's not just going to be a talk, but to rethink how development actually works. Joining us, I've said earlier on, is Tuva Adams. Tuva is the chairman of the Global NGO Stakeholders Summit 2026. And of course, he's in Mombasa to officially launch the conversation. Good morning, Tuva.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Salama kabisa.
Karibu sana Mombasa.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Everyone hosts conference, right?
Yeah.
And few shift systems.
Yeah.
What gap in the NGO sector convinced you that the Global NGO Stakeholders Summit had to exist?
Okay, so this came about from a system we put together to list some of the top NGOs in this country, the region. The idea initially was just to find a very easy way, to directorize the NGOs in the region. Yeah. Who are they? What do they do? Which region do they work in? What is the sector of focus? Is it JBV, gender-based violence? Is it youth empowerment? What area are they in? So just a basic general database of that. So over the last 2 or 3 years, we put together quite a number of names, and we saw a need because every single person who came to the website was basically trying to figure out, what can I do with this partner? Can I volunteer here? Yeah. Can I get a job here? This is a European country. They're trying to figure out which CBO can we work with in Kenya. So it was a number of questions and a mirage of very many items which led together to this convention. So through the feedback and input we got from the community and the region over the last 3 years, we decided, okay, fine, we need to do something with this data. We need to do a bit of action because we could see where the gap is. We could see what the problem is. We could see where the future is going. We could see what people need. So with this very big database of queries and inquiries and suggestions and input from these NGOs and different areas, including private sector, we decided to put together the NGO Summit, which is now happening this year in April. So the idea is that to bring people together. I'll tell you why. Okay. We realized that all this time, people are working in different silos. Things have changed. And you see, this is something we saw 3 years ago coming. And but literally, we got into the crosshairs around last year when the president from the United States came in and made a bit of changes. So that bit of shake was really quite strong. We affected a lot of countries in Africa, especially Kenya, where we currently are. So as we speak, there's a lot of trouble. People are losing their jobs. NGOs have become very unstable. CBOs, which used to rely on big NGOs, can no longer work properly. Things very close to our hearts. We're talking about education. People used to get paid. Used to get their fees paid. That's not happening anymore. Things as basic as HIV drugs are not happening anymore. So things which we might have quote unquote taken for granted, which maybe initially were meant to be a very temporary solution for us to at some point figure it out for ourselves. So I think either we got a bit comfortable and the train reached the end of the line, but taking that issue, we can turn it into an opportunity. Here's the opportunity. The opportunity is now we need to sit down together, build a sustainable infrastructure, either in different sectors, let's say in health. People in the health sector can meet and decide, okay, fine, this is the way forward. There are very many people doing different things in different areas, but at the bottom line, people in climate change, food security, people in youth governance, youth empowerment, governance, youth unemployment. All those people right now need to sit together and work together. We can no longer work in parallel. You need to understand that NGOs need to work with government, not work parallelly. we're all aiming to achieve the same thing. Even what do you call them? Private sector. Private sector use a CSR as a way of giving back. How do we then decide? Okay, fine. We are in the same industry. We our aim is to do A, B, C, D. How can we work together as private sector in the CSR area to find out a way of doing it together? Even the guys who fund. Right, the work is basically to give money. That was in the past. How do we now sit down and say, okay, fine, we're putting all those resources together, putting all these NGOs and communities together, and catalyze to allow them to have a bit of action.
Tuva, sorry, before you continue, how serious is the funding crisis?
It's really serious. To be it's serious and very scary. Right, I'll tell you, because we're a place where we see what people are conversing. All these dialogues, most of them pass through our systems, and we can see exactly where the worry, the questions. So you can understand when maybe 10, 20 NGOs in the same week are asking the same question. The line of question is the same. Right? Okay, what is happening here? What do we do? How do we, So based on that data, and I tell you it's quite a lot, we are able to figure out, okay, fine, this is basically what we need to do.
What we saw was we saw what happened with USAID, right?
Yes.
How many NGOs? And I just want to know the impact, right? When you say that the funding crisis is serious. We have a lot of NGOs,
yes,
right? What percentage of funding actually goes to these NGOs? Yes.
Okay, let me just take you back a bit. So basically in Kenya, I'll just start from home.
Please.
We have almost around maybe 11, basically around 1,100. This is 10,000, almost 11,000 NGOs in Kenya. In the region, we're talking about maybe 1.5 million, right, in the region. And I'll tell you that most of them have taken almost half of their staff home, or cut the facility by a very strong percentage. So I can tell you for free, it's really affected a lot of NGOs, and you can't go to someone who used to depend on on the day-to-day or monthly supply of such whether medicine or facility, whether it's food, whatever. You cannot go and tell them, okay, fine, there's an NGO called, or there's a body called, and I international NGO called this, which now no longer gives us money. They will not understand that concept.
Yes.
So how then do we, as people in the NGO sector, private sector, even government, put our heads together and figure out how do we make this happen? Right now, I think there's and I think the American president was trying something new with our local government, something called G2G, and that is also a way of making sure, because at some point that will also trickle down to the normal Mwananchi, to our communities and all that. Sorry,
you said you talked about measures earlier on, the measures that we would have put in place, right, and that we were not prepared for the donor cuts that we experienced.
Correct.
Right, and moving forward, as we're getting into this space, when those people who are funding the NGOs say we're no longer going to fund this particular programs, it's their money, right?
Yes.
What's the alternative?
The alternative is for us to sit together, and that's why this conference or summit happening in April is very important for us, because we've called people from over the region. We've called people from Kenya. We have some guys from Malawi, from Zimbabwe. We have South Africans coming in, Ethiopians coming in. Basically, it's the whole region and even the globe. It's for us to sit down and figure out, do we then need to shift policy? Do we then does the government then give incentives to some of this private sector to encourage them to put maybe more money into the CSR project? Or is a solution? Is it then that that there are NGOs which do not need external funding? There are. Manuel Chandari and so how do they then, instead of them also just focusing on can they also extend the same courtesy to people related to whatever? So those are some of the conversations we'll be having, and can then that be actualized or solidified into some kind of policy, which we can submit to either the regulatory bodies or government directly through regulatory bodies and say, okay, fine, this is what we think needs to happen. Because at some point, this needs to happen from both national level and also county level. There's some things county government can do, right? And you realize that even for our launch, we are doing it, we're trying to figure out, okay, of course, this being the first one, we're trying to be a bit modest, but ideally we've basically moved from Nairobi to do it in Mombasa, then go back to Nairobi. And this is because we do realize that there is a very big community of civic society in Coast Region. How do we then bring them together? How do we then sensitize them to come into this particular summit and add value? So the change does happen when both the NGO sector, both local and international, when national government and also county government and the private sector puts their head together to make sure that they're actually doing something. That is where the change will happen. So these 3 days we will be at Agile Hotel, basically from the 22nd to the 24th. And basically we're talking to partners, see how we can work together. Some of the partners will basically be showcasing what they've been doing in the past, and hopefully maybe they can get introductions to meet other major players in the NGO sector to allow them then lift a hand. We are talking to people or members in the civic society who will be able to train people on grant writing. So this is how you used to do, and this is what you used to get. It's shifted now. How do we change the way we write our grants to be focused on specific things? So those are some of the things that we're having partners come on board and do a specific training on, right? You're talking about even in the private sector, we have people doing marketing. How do we shape our stories? How do you write our stories in the right way? We do have groups and organizations which are willing to come put a training on how the NGOs story tell. How will they then the story tell? How will they have an impact? How will they pull donors in a different way? You do realize there's also some other embassies beyond the West which are also giving the donations. We just need to fit in certain criteria. How do we then ensure that we highlight them, maybe through a funding platform? We already have that. So some of the outputs that we'll be able to put at the end of this particular project is, yes, we will have a place where people can basically train. So what we're doing is we're talking to different partners. They already have these things maybe in their websites and all that. How do we capture them and pull them into one resource center where people can come and learn at no cost? Right? Okay. So these resources are already there. How do we then just streamline them into one area? There are governments around the globe who are still willing to help here there. How do we then make sure that the CBOs, the NGOs are well curated, that there's accountability? If you need to register your business the right way through the right channels, there are ways to register CBOs, there are ways to register NGOs. Can that route be followed to the letter?
Okay.
If you need any other licensing, all that, so that when you're writing your proposal and they ask you for this documentation, you actually have it.
All right.
Yes.
Let us look at something around health, right? And this, it says that when talking about the funding crisis, right? Nearly 70% of HIV programs in Kenya depended on donor support. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? This is now especially through the US program like PEPFAR, and so this cuts thrown many services, including life-saving antiretroviral treatment support into limbo. This is the health sector, and looking at 70% of this is supported by the donors, right? Did we leave so much to the donors? Did we leave so much to the donors as a country? And with this gone, what is it that the government is doing, or rather should do, to even cushion this?
So again, I'll take you back to the conversation we were having initially. When these programs came up, most of them were not meant to be long term.
Okay.
They were meant to be a jake for you to allow you to change the tires, or maybe just a temporary alleviation. And sometimes when you when you forget where you're from and you maybe live somewhere comfortably, you forget that you actually have only a mattress and and a stool at the house for you to go back to. You forget that you only have strong tea and whatever. So as long as you see the reality where you're in, you're able to improve it an item at a time. But when we're living so comfortably on this other side, we're not able to see the reality. Right, we are able, it's like it's a curtain until the mat or rug is pulled from under our feet. Then you realize, okay, fine, we are actually living in limbo. So I believe this is, as I said, it's an opportunity for us to face reality. This is where we are. How do we change from where we are? Yes, we're not in the best place. We might not be as financially stable as we want. So how do we move? How do we make sure that this is sustainable projects that we get in? How do we make sure that it's not a charity, quote unquote charity?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that when, for example, we're empowering Mama Mboga, we're empowering a farmer, how do we make sure that the next time he doesn't have to go and come back to you for that, that mbolea or fertilizer, right? How do you make sure that they can be able to sustain themselves?
Yeah.
And this is where also foundations and bank foundations come in. They're able to cluster these people into areas which, of course, they're able to measure the risk and whatever. But at the end of the day, it's maybe at a lower cost of getting credit and maybe better terms and all that, and maybe longer times to repay. So the banks also have a place to play in this. How do they ensure that they're able to realize on some banking clusters like this? They look at women, they look at youth. It's not out of nowhere. There's also a structure to that. So ideally, we just need to shift things, how shift out the things we're doing and face our reality. Until the time we have a fully furnished house, let's embrace our current reality, that this is where we are. Yes, we're not the richest country, we're not the richest community. Africa is not, of course, we are somehow, but how do we embrace that and make our lives better?
Okay.
Yes.
Tuva, haya mazungumzo tutazungumza, lakini kikubwa ni uchumi, kikubwa ni senti, iko wapi na watu wetu wataishi vipi. Kando na kwamba inapitia baadhi ya mashirika, nafikiri labda mwezi mmoja ama siku ambazo hazijafika mwezi mmoja umezungumzia mada ya Afrika bila msaada. Mwito wa kuamsha sera. Hapo ulipo, na we ni mwenyekiti, sehemu nyingine watasema we ni rais wa hii summit. Ni kitu gani ambacho kwamba kinaweza kufanyika Kenya hapa, Afrika Mashariki na bara zima linaweza likaishi bila misaada?
Mambo ambayo naona inaweza fanyika ni kwamba ni tuungane. Yote 9-10 tunafaa kuungana. Tutaenda hivi tuende, lakini cha muhimu kabisa inaitwa collaboration kizungu. Lazima tuungane. Lazima yule ambaye anafanya the stakeholders in different areas, na si wengi, ni serikali, ni hao mashirika yasiyo ya kiserikali, NGOs, ni private sector, na ni hao, si watu wengi sana. Ni hao washikane. Sasa kushikana ni lazima mtu mmoja ama community, ama kama sisi kama summit tuweke mahali pamoja, waongee. Ushaona, waongee, wakubaliane, hii ndio njia tunafaa kuendelea. Bila kitu kama hicho tutakuwa tunaongelea huyu anaongea huku, lakini hatuna umoja. Hiyo collaboration, we need to have a central point where people can sit down, discuss and come up with proper policies which can actually be implemented. Hicho peke yake. Without those specific policies, nakwambia tale uende mahali serikali umwambie kwamba sisi watu 2500 tumesema kwamba maisha yetu kuendelea vizuri lazima tufanye AB, watakusikiza. Lakini huyu akienda aseme chake, huyu anakisema chake, hamtasikiza, hamtakuwa na hiyo nguvu. Sasa utakuta kote hule national government, county government wako na policies zao. Tuzibadilishe vipi kutusaidia sisi kama kama community. Sasa hivyo ndio tunafaa kufanya.
Nguvu ya maji ni mawe. Na kichango ni kuchangizana. Nguvu yenu nyinyi ya kuhakikisha kwamba serikali za ugatuzi, serikali kuu na mashirika na wadau wengine wanakuja pamoja, ni mpango mkakati gani ambao kwamba wewe na wenzako mnauona kwamba sisi tukifanya hili basi hizi changamoto ambazo Miriam amehesabu kwenye sekta ya afya, tuna sekta ya maji, tuna sekta ya lishe, food security wenyewe wazungu mnaita, tutapata utatuzi ambao kwamba hautakuwa wa muda mrefu lakini utakuwa ni endelevu na kizazi kinachokuja hakitaumia. Yes.
Sasa kitu ambacho sisi tunafanya ama naita advantage tuko nayo ni kwamba swala hili hazijaletwa na sisi. Swala hili litoka upande huu mwingine. Na kuambia ile miaka 3 tumeangalia hata kabla mwaka jana ambayo rais wa Amerika alisema kwamba kuna tunaangalia mambo maslahi yetu kwanza. Utakuta yani ni kama ambayo tulikuwa tunaona mbali. Ni kwa vile tu ilifanyika almost at the same time, lakini kama tulikuwa tunaona mbali kwa sababu haya masuala hajaletwa na sisi. Hajaletwa na hizi jamii, hizi CBOs, hizi NGOs. Masuala haya yote yameletwa na how ambao the stakeholders themselves. So sisi kwa sababu tuko na ile access, ni kwa sababu tunaona tunaona kama we can see through the whole system. Tukasema cha muhimu hapa yote hizi, all these queries, all this data, because ni data hiyo. Tukaanalyze tunasema hapa miaka 3 ya data, solution ni hiyo moja pekee yake. So hii event tunafanya Aprili tarehe 22 mpaka 24. Utakuta kwamba ni kilio cha hawa ambao wanahusika sana. Ni kilio chao ambao sisi sasa tumechukua jukumu ama tumepatiwa nafasi ya kuweza kuwa kama spearhead kuhusu hiyo solution. Na sisi peke yake, utakuta hata wale ambao wanatuunga in the private sector, because kuna watu even other NGOs, kuna NGOs zingine ambazo ziko huku. Utakuta kuna NGO kama inaitwa Ashoka ziko nyingi. Kuna Ashoka Global, kuna Ashoka East Africa, kuna Ashoka Kenya. Utakuta wamefanya kitu inaitwa fellowship programs za karibu watu 500. Watu 500 hao wote wanataka kuja hiyo event moja. Ushaona, si watu wako wote Kenya, wako Afrika nzima. Unaona, walifanywa training kitambo, lakini wanataka kuja ni kama give back in a way, kwamba mimi nilianzishwa nikiwa hivi, niko na NGO yangu, niko na CBO yangu, na naona maoni yangu ni haya. So haya maoni ama hii summit si yetu, ni ya hawa stakeholders. Sisi we're just a convening power ambayo tutafacilitate hiyo program, lakini tuseme ni hawa different stakeholders including government, because we have partners ambao ni serikali. Kusema hivyo pia sasa tujafika mwisho, tuko na kama miezi 2 na nusu ambao ndio nanifike. Kitu muhimu ni kwamba wale ambao pia hawajatuunga, whether ni private sector, other NGOs, how do they come in? Wanaweza tupigia simu, email, nini, tukutane, waseme okay, sisi tunaona ni hivi na hivi na hivi, miezi imebaki hii, tujue vile tutaishape hiyo, kama ni hiyo program tuishape paka yote iweze kwa sababu unaweza kuta mtu amekaa mahali anajibu la swala hili lakini hajajiingiza. Kitu kingine ndugu yangu ni kwamba kuna hii demography inaitwa youth. Hii demography inaitwa youth. Utakuta wengi wao sana huwa wanatafuta kazi nini, but wanapata shida sana, na watu wanapenda sana kufanya kazi ya NGOs. Utakuta tunafanya kazi na different partners kuhakikisha kwamba pia wao, hata kama it's a subsidized fee, waweze kuja pia jione, let them interact, let them have a first hand experience, work, interact with these NGOs. Kutakuwa na kitu inaitwa embassy pavilion. Utakuta Kenya ndio nchi peke yake ambayo ina embassy zote ulimwenguni, hata Amerika hawana. Sisi peke yake. So with that opportunity and with that nikia ni baraka ile tutakuwa na embassy pa vile ambapo tumeita watu wengi sana from different embassies kuhakikisha kwamba wanaweza kuja na pia waweze kushowcase embassy zao zimefanya nini towards the civil society ama the communities around them. Yes.
How will the summit bring together the youth? Because you mentioned the youth, right?
Yes.
How does the summit bring youth, technology, and innovation into decision making?
Yeah. So decision making,
and not just them attending.
Yes.
Yeah.
So decision making comes with knowledge.
Okay.
Knowledge is a big thing. So with knowledge, we need to go back. Okay, where are they getting this knowledge from? We're talking to institutions. Because we haven't finalized some of these MOUs, we are talking to both private sector and universities, both private and public.
Yes.
To some of them will be giving us people who will be used as rapporteurs. For example, master students may say in IR. We'll need volunteers. We'll need people at the call center. It's a very big, huge team. So the secretariat also is quite almost 20 plus people. It's huge. And everyone is hands-on, and even with that, we still need people to work with us. So even with a shoestring budget, we're able to bring people from, let's say, these universities. How do you work together?
Yeah.
How do you volunteer? How do you also learn from this process? How do you interact with these embassies? How do you interact with these NGOs? How do they, you can talk to someone who's an executive director at an organization and tell you, okay, fine, we are looking to employ people next year, and this is the criteria. Also, these institutions which come in and they interact with these NGOs, they're able to somehow figure out a way that, okay, this is how we need to train our youth so that they can better fit into this in these communities.
Yeah.
These communities, I mean, is the UN, the NGO, the other NGOs, the embassies, because these are very sensitive communities which need a bit maybe extra training or a specialized training. So regarding that, we're basically going to where this knowledge is being impacted. We're working with I don't know what I'm allowed to say, but we're working with an NGO which is currently supporting almost 400 youth in this country. 400 youth is a big number.
It is.
They're willing to come on board, support some of the youth to be able to come for this summit for those 3 days. They're willing to come in as a youth leader. And these are very prominent people in our society, and just them extending this grace to this summit, it means quite a lot. It means we are actually doing something which will impact a number of people.
Yeah.
And I know for sure once we get through this summit, whatever comes out on the end, it will be quite something.
Okay.
Just to wind up also, as I said, we'll have rapporteurs both from our local university on the master's level to take notes of what we come up with, and to come up with proper concept notes at the end of it, which will then be somehow put together and handed over to government through, of course, the proper regulatory body to allow them adopt this suggestion. So it's not only a one-time show. It's not an event. We're then also looking for partners who will partner with, who will basically be supporting us quarterly to make sure that we're able to say, okay, fine, this is what we came up with. This is what government is supposed to adopt. This is what we as a summit will follow up all through the year till December.
Yes.
So that we can say, okay, fine, from April to December, this is what we basically achieved this in April. This is the kind of policies we came up with, and this is what we want to basically achieve. So come December, whether you're in government, private sector, if you helped us implement some of these changes, helped us actually have an impact, how do we recognize you? So we'll have a one-day gala in December, and we are talking to some of the government regulators to make sure that we unite and do this together.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the NGO sector, Tuva, what worries you the most, and what gives you hope?
What worries me currently is just the short-term situation we are in. I'll call it a pandemic. We got through the other pandemic, and we are now okay.
Yeah.
So that is my current worry, and I think it's a short-term challenge. Every region, every community, every country, there's a time we always face some challenges. It can be financial, whatever.
Yeah.
So that's what we're facing right now, and the right thing to do is, and I think is look at ourselves, that this is a reality.
Yeah.
As I said, we have been living in someone's house. It's comfortable, yeah, but ours also needs to be taken care of. We also need to buy, the first mat, the first cup. That's what we're currently doing. So I would say we should have started this earlier. We're quite late, but sometimes, a shock is good for, it's always good sometimes to get a bit of shock. That is my worry. Why I'm excited is that the number of people who are willing to join us and partner with us to make this a reality. That means I've seen the reality. And they're talking about organizations which don't even need funding from external. These are big, major companies in this country. And they're saying, okay, fine, we know it might not concern us, but it's not a need for us. But we see how these institutions are functioning. We see what they need, and we're willing to come in and help. Yes. Yeah. So that shows me a lot of hope, and also the feedback we're getting from even other regions. We're having partners coming from Zim, as I told you, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Malawi, Ethiopia, just to name a few. Rwanda also. We're having dignitaries coming from around the region. So that is really a big deal. It shows me that we're all hoping and praying for the same thing. And I know once this summit is done correctly, we're going to come up with something which will really change our lives.
I like that. Yeah. You're launching tomorrow at the Withdrawal Foundation. Do you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. So we're having our first media launch tomorrow at the Withdrawal Foundation. We've invited media from this region. As I said, Mombasa is a big hub. So we decided not to do our first launch in Nairobi, come to Coast Province first. It's a big hub, and we believe the NGOs and the civic society in this region also need to know that what we're happening, because you cannot say there's some people you just need to So we're taking a responsibility to make sure that we spread the word. So we have called a lot of media to come and cover our initial launch. We'll have people from private sector, government. I said all the stakeholders. Yeah. Of course, Swahili Pot is invited.
Definitely.
Yeah,
we'll be there.
Yeah, so we are going to have our first media launch tomorrow, and then maybe the next one in a week and two in Nairobi.
All right. What time is it?
It's tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Okay.
So I think most of the people who have been invited are already confirmed. A lot of media houses, including some not even from this region, but we welcome all the visibility and publicity we can get.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Tuva, for making time today.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Hopefully, we will align. Like everything will come to.
Yeah.
What do you call it?
Kila kitu
kitakuwa
sawa,
right?
Itakuwa sawa. Ni posho na ukosefu wa ajira.
So don't forget, in April 2026, of course, Nairobi will be hosting the Global NGO Stakeholders Summit, and this is meant to bring together government, NGOs, donors, innovators, and communities from Kenya, Africa, and beyond. And I think this is pretty much to just change the whole landscape, and then also how about we just start depending on ourselves as well.
Tujitegemee.
Tujitegemee.
Yes,
Yeah.
Sustainability.
Yeah, we'll be right back.